So this segment today we're going to be talking about selling land. If I have some land that I have listed, or you have some land that you have listed and you're thinking about possibly selling it, if you got the land passed down from you in inheritance, or you bought some land a while back and you just decided now's the time to sell, you're moving, we're going to talk about the things that you need to know as a landowner if you are interested in selling your land. So let's say I own some land,
Okay.
Dad, what would you recommend?
Well, first of all, I'd recommend you call a land expert. Imagine that. But I mean, you can call any real estate agent. We all kind of dabble in everything, but call us if you want the full blown, okay?
Yeah.
But you can call any real estate agent and have them do a CMA. CMA stands for Current Market Analysis, okay? And in that process, we're members of the Multiple Listing Services. We're actually members of 4, Charlotte, Southwest Virginia, and New River Valley, and of course the Winston-Salem Association of Realtors. But we can go in and we can pull sales of comparable land. Let's say your land's 100 acres, right?
Yeah, let's just say it's 100 acres.
Okay, and it's river frontage, right? And it's got about half timber and half in fields. But we can go back, any realtor can go into the land sales and they can go review properties of similar acreage, okay? And go back a year, 2 years, 3 years and see what the average land price, it'll come up as an average.
Okay.
And then based on that, and the features is to get with you and say, well, based on the current marketing analysis, current CMA, your land is worth $4,000 an acre, okay? We've got some sales here at $1,900, we've got some sales here at $6,000, okay? But the mean figure here is about $4,000 an acre. Now you've got river frontage, so we'd probably want to put another $1,000 on that because there's not a whole lot of land that joins water.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has a little bit more scarcity and a little bit more demand. Of course, supply and demand equals value, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the first thing that we do. And then the second thing we do is we look at highest and best use, okay? Yeah, you want to sell you 100 acres, but let's give you an idea. Like,
what's highest and best use? Could you explain that more to me?
well, remember we talked about that in another series, right?
Yeah, we have.
Where we do 10 acres or more. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right, and what does your dad call it? I call it flex property, right?
Yeah, of
Remember
course.
I came up with that? And basically, John, we could put that 100 acres on the market for 5 an acre, we're saying, because it's river frontage. That's $500,000.
I'd like that, yeah.
But how many people out there running around got $500,000?
That's true. So
I mean, they've got a house, they've got a mortgage maybe, and then for recreational land, that's a big nut to do.
Let's say I have to move for work in the next 6 months.
Sure.
I've got a new job and
Right.
I need to move my 100 acres. I can't list. I can't afford to list 100 acres and sit on it and wait for the $500,000 buyer. What would you recommend I do with it?
Auction it, and we'll get into auctions. That's something we can go in there too.
Yeah.
Because that's usually a 60, 90-day turnaround.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be absolute, and you get your money. Once the auction's completed, it's 30 days to close. So that's the fastest way to liquidate. We get old Dale Falk involved. He likes to talk about it. He's one of the best auctioneers on the East Coast. But be that said, you can go on out, move out west, and let's look at maybe breaking this thing up, highest and best use. Okay. Maybe right now not do the minor subdivision with the lots, making the small lots on the road frontage, but let's maybe break it up into 3 tracks.
Okay.
You've got some hollows and hills over here. We'll look at your topography map. We also want to make sure that there's good access to those areas. There's some road. I mean, you just want to cut off a piece of the property.
Because all the property, if you took the property and you broke up into different sections, you would have to make all of them equally accessible.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So.
But using the topography map, of course, we'll go walk it and study it. Okay. And look at the different features and say, okay, so let's do a 10 acre, maybe let's put that on the market for $7,000 an acre. Remember, the whole thing is 5, all right?
Yeah.
So you'll get $2,000 an acre more for that particular tract.
Yeah, because less is more and more is less.
Exactly. And then look at maybe start out with, just to get this thing off the ground, maybe just break it up in 3. Now the way we do that, we don't have to have the surveyor out there.
Yeah.
In fact, you should never have surveying costs. The seller should never have to pay for a survey.
Okay.
Okay. And the theory behind that is you have this 100 acres, I want to buy it, okay?
Yeah.
And maybe you bought it by deed, and then the person that conveyed it to you inherited it, and the original survey is like 1900.
Yeah.
And you know about surveying.
I've seen that
So
before.
it may be 130 acres, right? It could be 80 acres because of the
that's true.
surveying methods, okay?
Definitely true.
But if I'm buying your 100 acres and I want a new survey, why am I asking you to pay for it? It doesn't benefit. Always when people say, who should be paying for this? Well, who benefits from it? So as a buyer, I should pay for the survey because I'm the one that's going to keep the land. You're gone on with your money. You don't need the survey.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So that's one thing we can look at.
Okay.
Is trying to maximize the return, because remember, this is an investment, and we can treat it as just one thing, but we can also treat it as separate things. Okay. Now it does take longer to sell, possibly. Okay. And the other thing is we break this up on GIS. We take the actual county GIS map with the topography map, with the floodplain map, okay? Sometimes even with the soils map. And we'll evaluate that property looking for building sites and accessibility, and then we'll go and we'll draw out. Let's say this is 20 acres, and we'll draw that out. We'll put that in on our advertising, okay?
Yeah.
And then the next one, maybe that's track A, track B is 30 acres, track C is 40 acres, and track D, if we're doing 4 maybe, would be another 10 acres, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not doing the math in my head
Yeah,
right now, okay? But you got the idea.
Yeah, of
okay?
course.
And when the buyer comes out, we'll assign prices to those, okay? And we'll talk about the features of that. You know, it has 3,000 feet of river frontage on track A. It's got 1,000 feet on track B. And track C doesn't have any river, okay? So we'll talk about those features. How much is in pasture, how much is in timber, okay?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, buyers, when they come to us, you know, they specifically say, hey, I'm looking for 30 acres of land, and I want at least 15 acres in pasture or in cleared and timber, okay?
So, and also on my 100 acres, we could take my 100 acres.
Right.
We could take the 100 acres, and couldn't we list it as 100 acres?
Yeah, no, we wanna do
and
that
also
too.
list it as separate,
Yes.
so we could have more
Definitely.
options, right?
Definitely. Now, Shada, who's here with us, okay, let's say she's going to be our buyer, okay? Shada,
Yeah.
you're facing the wrong direction, but that's okay. Oh,
there
that's
you go.
better. That's better, girl. Okay. So, Shada comes in, and she goes and she looks at track A, which is what?
10
20 acres? Well, 20, I think. is what
20,
we assigned
okay,
to,
20.
Okay? And Shada says, you know, I really want more river frontage.
Okay.
You know, can I get another 100 feet? Because I want that waterfall or that, you know,
yeah.
okay? So, you know, why not? We haven't surveyed it yet.
It's just a paper break.
So now it's called 23 acres or 25 acres, right?
Yep.
Okay. The whole idea is when we sell any of this, we want to make sure that what's left over, we can still sell it.
Exactly.
So the buyer has to understand, Shada, that, you know, when we're evaluating this, we can accommodate you, but everybody has to agree.
Yep.
Okay. Then what you do, once you've agreed on it, is you get your surveyor out there, but you make your offer on a per acre price. Okay. So you come in, Shada offers $4,000. That's her first offer for what we think is 23.5 acres. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we negotiate that out, but we make a per acre price. So when you go survey that, and this is not a bad idea on any piece of land transaction that has an older survey, it's fair to go ahead and get a new survey, but make a per acre price. And then once the survey is completed, even though the tax card, you've seen it, you and Owen,
Yeah.
you know, it may say 103 acres and it's 97.
It's always a good idea to make an offer per acre, because I've seen it personally. Like you said, we go 100-acre farm. It's what they think it is, and we would go survey it. And I've seen each way. I've seen it be 120 acres, and I've also seen it be 85 acres. So you just want to protect yourself that way, instead of making an offer on the whole piece or the chunk you want, not per acre. You know, you want to do it per acre, contingent upon a survey.
And that's the fairest way. So, you know, if I'm selling land, I'm selling exactly what I own. And buying land, you know, the buyer's getting exactly what they're buying. That's the fairest way to buy old, you know, farmland with old deeds.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
So, you know, so now we've gone through that process. Now, does it have a deferment on it? Okay. Where do you find that? You find that on the tax card. Okay. And then let's say maybe this is, you don't want to sell the whole 100 acres, John, or we do this flex property.
Yeah.
And Shada comes in and buys that 27 acres, but it's all timber.
Ah.
And the deferment says you have to have at least 20 acres of, now the whole thing's in deferment. Okay?
Yeah.
It's probably got maybe part in pasture, part in ag, and then part in timber. Well, the tax assessor, what they'll do is during this process, they'll reevaluate to see if it still qualifies for that deferment.
Okay.
So they'll take that $180,000 or whatever that deferment of taxes, it's going to be big money.
Oh, and they break it up.
Then they readjust it.
Oh, they
okay?
readjust
They
it.
reassign
So
it.
you don't lose it. So you just
You just
reassign it.
reproportion it.
Okay.
So now Shada just bought that. It
That's
did
good.
qualify for the 20 acres minimum. So now she's going to share in that too.
That's
and
awesome.
it doesn't cost anybody anything to do that.
That's
That
awesome.
transfers. Now, if Shada doesn't want that deferment, okay, then the government at closing can go back and collect up to 3 years of the difference in the taxes you didn't pay. And this could be real money. It could be $1,000. It could be
So
$4,000 or $5,000.
I would guess that Shadow probably wants to
Well, we
defer
want to
it.
encourage you to do that. So why not? It's a government program. It's free, and it helps you save money on taxes. I mean, why wouldn't you want it?
And these are things that you need to know, and honestly, not every single person that is a licensed real estate agent or realtor knows these things. And if you're selling your property and you want to get the most bang for your buck, you need to work with a professional in that industry, for sure. Just for reasons just like this, because if you don't know that, you could be missing out on a lot of money in your pocket when you sell your property. So I would definitely recommend that you work with somebody that knows what they're talking about and is experienced in land and in farms. And
example that I use sometimes about little Mary Realtor. That's this old couple
that's a good story.
had 500 acres, and Farmer Jones, and he died, and he had 4 kids, and one went to Australia, and one went. They scattered all over the place, and they weren't coming back. And his wife just didn't have the ability to maintain the farm. And she was at Sunday school, little Mary Realtor's in her Sunday school class, and she started saying, I want to sell my farm. Don't you have a real estate license? Mary said, sure I do. So little Mary had just gotten her license. She had it for like 2 months, and she worked for a property management firm. It wasn't even a true, like a residential or land firm. They do property management. Now imagine how much the owners of that company know about land. But anyway, they said, we'll help little Mary out. So she goes and does the CMA, doesn't understand highest and best use and the concept that we need to know. And she says, it's worth $5,000 an acre. Did the listing contract, Mrs. Jones signed it, she puts the sign up. 10 days later, she gets a call from a guy, and he says, I want to buy it, and I'll pay full price, no conditions, and I'll close in 10 days. Okay, right. So she goes over, the farmer's wife is all happy and everything, and I'm doing a short version.
So at 500 acres at 5,000, that's what, 2.5 million, I believe, right? So she's happy, right?
Yeah, sure.
She's happy.
Yeah, well, so this happens, it's recorded.
Yeah.
And then 10 days later, there's this huge sign that goes up on the property. It says, future home of Walmart Distribution Center. You know what the guy flipped it for? $20,000 an acre. So did Mary do her job? This is what we run into, and you need to understand that there's a lot more to land. It's a little 4-letter word, but it's got a big long tail.
It does.
Okay?
It does, and that's why you need to know if you're interested in selling your property. If you're in our area, reach out to us. If you're in another area of the country,
and we can help them through the Realtors Land Institute, www.rliland.com.
That's true.
That's other accredited land consultants like myself, fellow land dirt dogs around the country.
But if you want to know any more about selling land, you can contact us anytime at 336-669-1405. Visit our website, www.mylandpro.com, and we would love to help you out.
Yeah. See you on the next one.
See you.